What's up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to the Gaming Brigade. And last week, Outriders announced that they are going to be making some major improvements and changes to the game. Therefore, today I wanted to take some time, go over some of those patch notes, and answer some of the questions you've sent the channel. Now, if you happen to be new here, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button. If you enjoyed this, you could hit that like button as well. And remember, we are currently having a giveaway for a PlayStation 5. All you need to do to enter is either subscribe here or follow on Twitter, and the winner will be announced on October 2nd of this year. So the game gave us a ton of patch notes, my friends. Now, I'm not going to read them to you word for word. However, I will leave a link in the description down below so you can check them out anytime you want. Now, the first thing I want to really go over has to do with the game's stability. And as you can see here, that actually happens to be one of the first things they address, and they say the following. The first few hours of early access logins aside, we feel that it has overall been a very successful launch for Outriders Worldslayer. The servers have remained stable, and players seem to be having a lot of fun with the spread of viable builds as well as the hunt for great apocalypse gear. The overall stability of the game allows us to focus our efforts on a larger patch to implement any required balancing and tidy up any bugs that may have slipped through. This patch also is intended to introduce some requested quality of life upgrades such as item locking and improved quick mark functionality. Experiments concerning increased stash limits continue to be run, so we cannot confirm any news yet. Before we move on to the next part of the notes, let me know what's going on in your gameplay down below. Have you noticed that the servers seem better for you? I know for me, when I was part of that early access thing, it was a hot mess. I couldn't play the game for the first 6 hours, and it was completely frustrating. However, since that took place, I've noticed a major improvement in the servers. I haven't been able to play the game as much, but honestly, every time I jump in, over the last week, it's been really smooth, and I haven't really had any connection issues at all. Anyway, getting back to the notes, because there are so many changes that they're bringing to the game, they're breaking up this patch into two pieces. You can see the larger patch will continue to be assembled over the next week and will enter testing thereafter. A prospective release window is for the end of July. The option to instantly implement certain balancing changes via a backend update remain, though they are being mindful of what they use this for. A small patch will be released next week, but will be focused on a handful of bugs that were identified during and prior to early access. We'll confirm this patch's content on Tuesday. And of course, my friends, as soon as I do get those patch notes, I will pass them along to you. Now, the next thing I want to talk about has to do with farming, and as most of you know by now, there's a current farming method in the game that allows you to re-farm the last boss of the trial over and over again if you want to do that. Now, the reason why you're able to actually do that is something that the game implemented because they wanted to ensure that, let's say if you're in a group and you get disconnected from the squad leader, you do not lose your progression in the trial. So they cannot just take that out altogether, because otherwise that would affect a lot of players out there. Now, they say the following in the notes. The current exploit is only in place because we purposefully designed the retry system within the trial to be player friendly. We did not want players who need to take a break from playing or whose internet connection momentarily fails to be punished with lost trials or be sent back to the start of the trial itself. And my friends, in my opinion, this is the best part right here. They say, as mentioned in the philosophy of design section as we did last year, rather than punish players and reduce overall farming opportunities, we would like to realign your options to give you more choice rather than less. And what that means is that they're adding an extra guaranteed Apocalypse Legendary RNG drop in the following trove areas, which are Cliffside Path, Daughter Sanctuary, and the Arboretum, and the guaranteed drop will correspond to the targeted loot option for that respective trove. They then go on to say we are reducing the final Arbiter's Apocalypse Legendary drop rate, but the choice of legendary reward that appears after defeating the final Arbiter will remain unaffected. Now, what they're making sure is that these changes will make the trove areas of the game more attractive, and it will also help ensure an overall run-through of the trial becomes more rewarding than before, because like, the game was saying, and many of us out there already know this, the whole point is, obviously to get good loot in the game, and if you find one one spot that you can farm over and over, chances are that's exactly what you'll be doing because it's very efficient, but then you also run the risk of getting really burnt out of this game quickly. Now, compared to before, the amount of Apocalypse legendaries obtained from a full run through the trial was a minimum of 6. In the new system, a complete run through in all rooms of the trial will net a player a guaranteed minimum of 9 Apocalypse legendaries plus RNG chances for others. They finish off the section by saying the most efficient way of farming legendaries should therefore shift to something more fun and variable. And they're doing that to ensure that players don't feel the need to only farm one location in the game, because we all know, like I said a second ago, that's exactly how you get burnt out. So the fact that they're not penalizing players and adding more farming methods is a really, really good thing, my friends. Moving on, I'd now like to talk about certain builds in the game. Now, as we all know, we see certain content out there and people are just one-shotting everything. Now, I know from my gameplay, there are sometimes I jump into a group, and for me, since I'm just really starting to really level up my Apocalypse tiers, I love having powerful people in the group. It means they're getting a lot of the work done, I'm able to get more gear, and then obviously in turn, with the better gear I get, I can do more damage as well. However, many of you have reached out to the channel saying you join a group and everyone's just one-tapping everything and you can't get, you can't even get a shot in. Now, what the game is doing is they want to ensure that people have different varieties in regards to their builds. So they are doing some balancing that will take place in the future. Now, you can see here, and they do reference certain build in the patch notes. Again, I will leave a link to the full notes in the description down below. But they say one way or another, the builds mentioned here will need to be addressed in the future. And while we identified these issues last week already, we deliberately chose not to immediately nerf them. Instead, we are taking our time to observe the prevalence of these builds, but also to identify areas of the game which we can buff players. An early example here would be the trigger twitch set bonus, which we currently have earmarked with a significant and tasty buff. The plan is to ensure that when any balancing is implemented, players are given more options rather than less. And like many of you out there, that is exactly the type of information I want to hear from the game. I hate nerfs in the game, absolutely. I understand sometimes they are necessary, but the fact that they're looking to balance and just make certain things stronger than, immediately weakening everything in the game that people are using shows that they actually are listening to the community. And look, this game is far from perfect. I've gotten burnt out here and there, but I love the changes in Worldslayer so far, and I'm really happy to hear the other changes they're in the process of making. Finally, my friends, I want to address the Apocalypse tier system and the leveling up and the insane grind that it actually is. Now, there have been a lot of questions you've sent the channel in regards to that. Is the game going to change things? What, adjustments are going to be made? And as of right now, all they're really saying at this point is that they're closely monitoring how players engage with the Apocalypse tiers. Depending on their findings, they may well make some adjustments and soften the grind in the future, but we feel that 1 week after launch is still too early to make changes to a system that has intentionally been designed to last longer than a week. And as I start to wrap this video up, and please let me know what you think in the comment section down below, but for me, I would love for this game to have a shelf life longer than a month. You know what I mean? Like, you start to play, you get to a certain point, you maximize a build, then you don't see the really incentive to keep playing. However, if the game continues to make these player-friendly changes, it's something I would consider continuing to play, because what's happening now is this. For instance, I'm using a Technomancer, I love the build, and once it's maxed, I don't know if I feel the desire to actually max out another character because the grind to get to a certain Apocalypse tier or to get to a certain level took so long. However, if they do continue to make these buffs and changes, I could totally see myself jumping into a Pyromancer or, a Devastator build, something different, work on my Trickster build, things like that. So as long as they are focusing on the player, I am all about continuing to play this game. With all that being said, my friends, I want to take a moment as always and thank you all for your continued amazing support of this channel, and remind you, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know in the section down below and I will get back to you as quick as I can. Like I said at the beginning of this thing, if you happen to be new here, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button. If you enjoyed this, you could hit that like button as well, but most importantly, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone.